Is there anything more agonizing in sports than watching the confetti fall for the other team in a Game 7? That bitter taste of almost is still lingering in the mouths of every single person in Toronto right now, isn't it? We are standing here in late February 2026. The Florida sun is beating down on Dunedin. The crack of the bat is echoing through the palm trees. But let's be real. The ghost of last October is haunting this franchise. We pushed the Dodgers to the absolute brink. We had them on the ropes. And yet we walked away with nothing but heartbreak and a runner-up banner that nobody really wants to hang. That pain? That's the fuel. That is the fire burning under this 2026 squad. But as we stare down the barrel of a new season, a massive question mark has emerged, and it's hovering right over the pitching rotation. It's a question of loyalty, performance, and whether or not it's time to sever ties with a familiar face to finally get over the hump. We need to talk about the elephant in the room, or rather, the pitcher on the mound who might not be there much longer. The rumor mill isn't just whispering, it is screaming about a potential trade that would send shockwaves through the American League. We are talking about Jose Berios. Yes, La Máquina. The man who was supposed to be a cornerstone is now looking more like a trade chip. And the destination? A poetic return to where it all began. The Minnesota Twins. Now, before you react, take a breath. This isn't just clickbait. This is a legitimate strategic pivot that the front office is reportedly considering as we speak. Why now? Why, when we are so close to a title, would we subtract a veteran arm? Because sometimes, addition by subtraction is the only way to fix the chemistry in a clubhouse that needs to be bulletproof. Let's set the scene properly. Spring training is underway. The vibes should be immaculate. But there is this underlying tension regarding Berios. Reports are surfacing, specifically from analysts like Mark Powell, suggesting that a reunion with Minnesota makes too much sense to ignore. The narrative here is heavy. We aren't just talking about stats, we are talking about trust. There's a feeling that Berios, despite his talent, has become the odd man out in a rotation that is trying to become the best in baseball. The Twins are desperate. They have injuries piling up like snow in a Minneapolis winter. Pablo Lopez is out long-term. Joe Ryan is dealing with back issues. They need an arm, and they need someone who knows the target field mound. Meanwhile, Toronto is sitting on a surplus of talent, but perhaps a deficit of consistency from the number 17 jersey. This trade rumor is the first major domino of the 2026 season, and if it falls, it changes the entire complexion of our World Series pursuit. Are we ready to say goodbye, or is this a mistake waiting to happen? To understand why this trade is even being discussed, we have to hop in a time machine and look at the trajectory of Jose Berios' career, and more importantly, the history of change of scenery trades in Major League Baseball. Think back to when Berios first broke into the league with the Twins. He was electric. He was the future. He had that devastating curveball that made hitters buckle at the knees. When Toronto acquired him, the price was steep. We gave up top prospects Austin Martin and Simeon Woods Richardson. At the time, it felt like a ransom, but it was a statement. The Blue Jays were in win-now mode. But baseball history is littered with trades that looked good on paper, but complicated the clubhouse dynamic. Remember when the Jays traded for David Price in 2015? That was a rental that energized the city. This situation with Berios feels like the inverse. It feels like the moment a team realizes a long-term investment has reached its point of diminishing returns. We have seen this story before in Toronto. Think about the Marcus Stroman era. Immense talent, huge personality, but eventually, the timeline of the player and the timeline of the organization just drifted apart. Berios is currently 31 years old. In pitcher years, that is a precarious age. You are no longer the young phenom, but you aren't quite the crafty old wizard like a Greg Maddux yet. You are in that middle ground where velocity starts to dip and command has to be perfect. And let's be honest, looking at the historical data of pitchers returning to their original teams, it's a mixed bag. Sometimes going home rejuvenates a career. Look at Cliff Lee returning to Philadelphia. Other times it's a desperate attempt to recapture magic that simply isn't there anymore. For the Twins, bringing Berios back is a nostalgia play mixed with desperation. For the Blue Jays, it's a cold, calculated business decision. Let's dive deeper into the mechanics of why this is happening now. The Blue Jays' rotation has evolved. We aren't the same team that traded for him years ago. We have developed internal arms. We have signed other veterans. And suddenly, Berios' spot isn't guaranteed by merit, but rather by contract. That is a dangerous place to be for a contender. If you look at the great rotations of the last decade, the Astros of the late 2010s, the Dodgers, the Braves, they all had one thing in common: ruthless efficiency. They didn't hold on to guys because of what they did 3 years ago. They played the guys who could get outs today. Berios' 2025 season was fine. But fine doesn't win you a World Series against a lineup like the Dodgers. Fine gets you bounced in the ALCS. The historical context here screams that Toronto is trying to shed the good but not great label. By moving a piece like Berios back to Minnesota, they are signaling that the standard has been raised. It's a ruthless move, but history tells us that the teams who win rings are rarely the sentimental ones. Now let's strip away the emotion and look at the cold, hard numbers, because the spreadsheet doesn't lie. In 2025, Berios posted a 4.17 ERA and a 1.30 WHIP over 166 innings. On the surface, those are serviceable numbers for a back-end starter. But for a guy being paid like a frontline ace, it's a problem. Compare that to his 2024 campaign where he had a 3.60 ERA and a 1.15 WHIP. The regression is real, folks. The trend line is pointing in the wrong direction. His strikeout-to-walk ratio dipped to 2.5. In the modern game, where elite teams are trotting out pitchers with ratios north of 4.0 or 5.0, Berios is allowing too much traffic on the base paths. A 1.30 WHIP means that in almost every inning, there is a runner on base. That creates stress. That taxes the bullpen. And in a 7-game series against the Dodgers, that is a death sentence. We saw it last year. The margin for error was microscopic. But there is another layer to this analysis: the cap hit and the roster flexibility. Berios has 1 year left on his deal. He is essentially an expiring asset. If the Blue Jays keep him and he struggles, his value plummets to zero. If they trade him now, they clear salary space to perhaps add a high-leverage reliever or a power bat at the deadline. It's Asset Management 101. Furthermore, let's talk about the locker room chemistry aspect mentioned in the reports. There was that note about Berios staying away from the team while they were competing. He apologized, sure, but in a high-performance environment, absence speaks louder than words. If the other 25 guys are grinding and one guy is perceived as being checked out, that is a cancer that spreads. The Blue Jays cannot afford a divided clubhouse in 2026. Let's project the future here. Scenario A: we keep Berios. He bounces back, pitches like an all-star, and helps us win. Great. But is that likely given the age curve? Scenario B: we keep him. He posts a 4.50 ERA, gets shelled in June, and the fans turn on him, creating a toxic environment at the Rogers Center. Scenario C: we trade him to Minnesota. The Twins get their innings eater to save their rotation. We get prospects or salary relief. The rotation becomes younger, hungrier, and arguably more dynamic. The fan base is split right now. I see the comments. Half of you are saying, he's a workhorse, don't trade depth. The other half is screaming, he's washed, get what you can. This polarization is exactly why the front office needs to be decisive. If they believe the internal options, maybe a Ricky Tiedemann or a Buden Francis stepping up, are ready, then Berios becomes expendable. It's a gamble on the future versus a reliance on a fading past. So, where does this leave us as we gear up for opening day? It leaves us at a crossroads. The potential trade of Jose Berios to the Minnesota Twins is more than just a transaction. It is a declaration of intent. It says that the Toronto Blue Jays are no longer satisfied with good enough. It says that the pain of losing Game 7 has sharpened the focus of this organization to a razor's edge. If Berios goes, we are thanking him for the innings, for the stability he provided during some turbulent years. But we are also acknowledging that the page has turned. We are acknowledging that to beat the juggernauts of the National League, we need elite performance, not just innings eaters. The Twins need him. It's a perfect fit for them. They need someone to save their season before it starts. We need to streamline our machine for a championship run. This is the reality of professional sports in 2026. It's ruthless, it's fast-paced, and it waits for no one. If this trade goes down, it will be bittersweet, but it might just be the necessary medicine. We are chasing a legacy here. We are chasing that parade down Yonge Street that we were denied last year. Every roster spot matters. Every pitch matters. If the front office pulls the trigger on this deal, trust that it is because they see a path to the trophy that doesn't include number 17. And if they don't, Then Berios better show up to Dunedin with the fire of 1,000 suns, ready to prove every doubter, including me, wrong. Because in this city, second place is no longer an option. We want the ring. Now, I need to hear from you. This is the most controversial topic of the spring so far. Do you make this trade? Do you send Berios back to Minnesota and trust the young arms? Or is trading a veteran starter before the season a recipe for disaster? I want to see your GM skills in the comments below. Give me your trade proposals. Who do we get back? Or do we hold on to him for dear life? Smash that like button if you are ready for Blue Jays baseball. Subscribe so you don't miss a single breaking update as we march toward October. And let's get this conversation started. The road to the World Series begins now. Let's play ball.